What if a nuclear base was hidden under Greenland?
It was not a myth. It was Camp Century.
Publicly, it was a research station.
Secretly, it tested Project Iceworm.
During the Cold War, Greenland was not remote. It was the shortest northern corridor between rival nuclear powers. Thule Air Base made the ice sheet a strategic frontier, not an empty wilderness. The U.S. Army wanted a survivable nuclear role at a time when missiles and bombers dominated deterrence. The idea sounded simple. Put the base below the surface, then let snow conceal it. In 1959, the Army began building Camp Century under the northwestern Greenland ice sheet. The technique was cut and cover: excavate, roof it, bury it again. Inside the ice, the camp became a small city with tunnels, rooms, power, heat, and routine. The real Camp Century used 21 trenches, totaling roughly 9,800 feet of tunnel space. At its peak, around 200 people could live and work inside the frozen system. Its power came from the PM-2A, a portable nuclear reactor designed for remote military bases. The paradox was immediate. The camp needed heat to survive, but heat is the enemy of ice. Water came from melting the glacier itself, turning the ice sheet into both shelter and supply. The public saw engineering optimism, a bright Arctic laboratory beneath the snow. But the classified layer pointed to something larger than science. Project Iceworm imagined thousands of miles of tunnels beneath Greenland. The concept was to move missiles through hidden tunnels so no one knew where they were. Some plans described a tunnel network so large it would turn part of the ice sheet into a concealed launch field. Greenland was Danish territory, and the full nuclear intent was politically explosive. The missile plan never obtained the necessary Danish consent. So Camp Century remained the demonstration site, useful, public, and strategically convenient. Then the ice began to answer. It moved, it pressed, it narrowed the rooms. Within a few years, some tunnels had compressed far faster than the planners expected. The base survived only by fighting the glacier with constant maintenance. A bunker can resist blast. It cannot resist an ice sheet that never stops moving. Ironically, the same base produced climate science that outlived the military plan. The Camp Century Ice Core helped scientists read long records of Earth's climate history. But as a military infrastructure test, the verdict became impossible to ignore. The ice sheet was not a foundation. It was a slow river. By the mid-1960s, year-round ambition gave way to reduced operation. The nuclear reactor was removed, but the story did not end cleanly. Camp Century was abandoned under the assumption that snow would seal it forever. Infrastructure and waste remained beneath the ice, preserved by a belief in permanent cold. Decades later, the buried base became a political and environmental question. The deeper story emerged when declassified records exposed the missile logic behind the camp. The name Project Iceworm was not poetic. It described a weapon system meant to live inside ice. The plan failed because it treated a glacier like concrete. Today, the failure has a second life, because warming may eventually expose what was left behind. Scientists warn that if accumulation turns to ablation, the ice stops being a vault. NASA radar has shown structural traces of the city still buried under the ice. In April 2024, a radar flight imaged Camp Century with unusual clarity. The mission was science. The data reopened a military ghost. This was not cartoon villainy. It was Cold War logic pushed into an impossible environment. The ice did not need to attack. It only needed to move. Every corridor depended on men, fuel, heat, machines, and constant correction. Every supply run reminded planners that secrecy still needed logistics. A secret city is only powerful if it can keep existing. Camp Century matters because geography, secrecy, and technology collided in one frozen place. No missiles were ever fielded there. The plan stayed a plan. I've made some discoveries that I think are relevant.
Let me see that.
I think something is buried under the ice. In the archive, Camp Century reads like a warning, disguised as a blueprint. Its public face was optimism. Its classified shadow was deterrence. Its ending was physics. The enemy of the base was not a soldier. It was time under pressure. Camp Century became an archive that no one could fully close. From above, nothing looked unusual. That was the point.
The most ambitious secret bases can vanish without disappearing.
What survives is not the plan, but the cost of believing nature would stay still.
Built in 1959, abandoned by 1967, reopened by radar decades later.
It was a city built by heat, inside a world preserved by cold.
Project Iceworm failed because its hiding place was alive.
The glacier buried the secret. It did not forgive the design.
This was Project Iceworm.
Subscribe for more declassified Cold War failures.
Next, another plan that worked on paper and failed in reality. Was Camp Century genius, madness, or both?
Because under the ice, the story is still there.
Dark History Archive. File closed.